Well, in the USA, there's the National Fire Prevention Association 101 Life Safety Code, which specifically deals with crowd monitoring, crowd surges, the number of people that you should have in areas. We actually launched a training course to highlight some of these issues back in March with the University of Southern Mississippi. So, yeah, there are a lot of things that should have been in place. And until I see any specific documentation, I can only speculate as to whether or not those were adhered to, what went wrong, when it went wrong, who had the show stop call, was that actioned, did they monitor the crowd appropriately? So there are legislation and guidance in place, pretty much like the WorkSafe Act down in Australia. In the UK, we've got the Health and Safety at Work Act. In the USA, they've got guidance which is state by state. So that the national guidance is the NFPA 101 Life Safety Code, but each state will put in a license and permit, which may make that legislation in that area.
Yeah, which then potentially exposes them, as we know it is now, a criminal investigation. But give us a sense how you would go in and investigate what went wrong in an incident like this.
Well, the first thing that I start with is the license, the permit, the site design, whether or not that was done with this type of crowd, particularly a post-COVID crowd, which we are seeing they're slightly more enthusiastic, slightly more celebratory. So was that factored into the thinking, the planning? What were the show-stop calls? Who had the authority and responsibility for it? Once we've established those facts, the permit and license, if there were any deviations, that would start to point towards problems and issues which may indicate negligence. And then you start to look at the eyewitness accounts and unfold the incident from the perspective from the crowd. But first and foremost, it's a document analysis.
How easy is it to get eyewitness accounts when there is drugs and alcohol involved? We've got allegations that some people were going around injecting people with drugs.
I can't speculate to the nature of whether that's true or not. But eyewitness accounts, it's generally very easy to take a batch of them and understand where the threads of common features occur. But you ask any two people an eyewitness account of something simple, and you'll get two varied perspectives. So you need to understand how to interpret eyewitness accounts, what kind of questions need to be asked. There's been a number of times where I've worked with solicitors and attorneys and saying you need to frame the question in the following way. I'll give you an example of that. When asked, where were you within the concert? That can be a very difficult thing to understand where you were standing. But phrase the question another way. If you look at the performers on stage, how tall were they, in terms of the size between your fingers? Now, that gives you a distance. So geometry can give you a lot better answer than where were you within the concert? I was in the middle of a crowd. I've got no idea. But the performer was about that size from where I was standing. Great. Now I can pinpoint your location.
Yeah. What is the protocol when it becomes evident that there's a problem? Should there be people who come on stage and stop the performances?
Well, generally there'll be one or two key individuals that have the authority to show stop, generally from the promoter, the organizer, the head of safety and security. There should be a process and procedure in play, and the performer should understand just exactly what those protocols are. Now, without seeing the documentation, I don't know if that was in the plan. I don't know if that was actioned. So I can only speculate as to what might have happened in these instances. I hear and see YouTube clips of security staff being on stage trying to communicate. I saw incidences where they had earlier pauses within the performance to try and deal with a crowd situation. But what went wrong exactly in this instance? Who had the authority to call a show stop? Was that action? Those will be questions that the criminal investigation will need to evaluate from the actual documentation of the site.
And is it common for the performer themselves to stop it if they are alerted to a problem?
When we work with performers, yes, it's generally part and parcel of the process procedures. Does the performer understand the risks, understand the liabilities that if they fail to action a show stop, what the consequences might be? In most instances, the performers are part and parcel of understanding the safety protocols.
tell me, once an investigation is carried out, I understand sometimes that is sealed because of litigation and settlements. How does that help, though, to try and stop something like this happening again?
Well, if you look at any other safety-related industry, take aviation, for example. If there's a near miss or close call with the aircraft, there'll be a team of experts evaluate what went wrong, how it went wrong, and a process and procedure implemented, which then goes out throughout the entire aviation industry. In the events industry, a civil case might take several years. It might get settled out of court. Most of the cases I've worked on have been settled out of court and the documents have been sealed and we can't talk about specifics. So where's the feedback within the industry to try and improve this situation?
It's a good question. Professor, appreciate your expertise on this. Thanks so much.
Thank you for inviting me on the show. And obviously, my heartfelt sympathies to everybody that's involved. These sort of things just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Absolutely. As you say, they should not happen. Thank you so much.